What if the thoughts that keep you trapped were never truly yours? They echo in your mind: shame, fear, overthinking, the weight of needing to prove something. But underneath it all, there's a stillness calling you back home. Freedom isn't found by adding more. It's found by letting go of what was never real. Most people never silence the noise long enough to hear the soul's voice. But you're not most people. You're here, searching. What if 12 simple shifts could untie the invisible knots that hold you back? Before we begin, subscribe to Deep Wisdom, where every video is a doorway to calm, clarity, and timeless Buddhist insight you won't find anywhere else. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type "Freedom begins from here" and stay until the end, because there's a powerful bonus lesson, one that changes everything. Let's begin. 1. The illusion of control is the root of your suffering. Why do things fall apart the moment we try to force them into place? You suffer because you cling to what refuses to stay. The mind, in its desperation to feel secure, begins to grasp at people, at plans, at outcomes. But life, in its truest nature, is fluid. Like a river, it bends, it turns, it moves without permission. And yet, we try to hold it still. We plan every detail, push against uncertainty, and grow anxious when things don't obey our will. But what if this very act of control is the seed of our suffering? There's an old image shared by monks across time. Trying to hold on to life is like trying to grasp a stream of water with closed fists. The tighter you squeeze, the quicker it escapes. What you're left with is emptiness and the pain of trying too hard. Suffering, then, isn't born from what happens. It arises from our resistance to it. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing beside a quiet river. In your hand, there's a single leaf. Instead of forcing it to stay, you open your palm and gently let it go. It lands on the water and begins to float, softly, effortlessly, beautifully. You don't chase it, you don't regret it, you simply watch, and in that moment, you are free. So I ask you, what are you still trying to control that is already leaving you? A relationship you've outgrown, a dream that no longer aligns with your soul, a version of yourself that no longer feels true. The more you hold, the more you suffer. But the moment you release, even slightly, peace enters. In Buddhism, this teaching is profound. It's not about giving up responsibility, but about surrendering our obsession with outcomes. The Buddha taught that clinging leads to suffering, and freedom lies in letting go. Each time you try to control the river of life, you build a dam in your own mind. The water will rise, the pressure will grow, and eventually it breaks. But when you flow with it, trust replaces tension. Look around your life right now. Where are you forcing something to stay, to work, to succeed? And what would happen if you let go of the outcome and just gave your full presence to the moment? Remember, trying to control life is a form of spiritual forgetfulness. It forgets that life is intelligent, that sometimes the things falling apart are falling into alignment. It's not your job to hold the stars in place. It's your task to trust the sky they shine in. At the end of this journey, I'll share a powerful mindset shift that transformed how I respond to life's chaos, one that turned struggle into serenity. But for now, reflect on this. Your mind is not a prison, unless you believe the bars are real. 2. Non-reactivity is the language of the soul. What if your true power isn't in what you say, but in what you no longer feel the need to? We spend so much of our lives reacting, defending, correcting, explaining, proving, as if every word we speak is a shield. But real strength isn't loud. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't rise every time it's challenged. True strength is in the silence after the storm, when the world throws its noise at you and you remain still. In Buddhist teachings, this is the essence of non-reactivity. It's not indifference, it's inner mastery, the mind that no longer trembles every time something outside changes, the heart that doesn't flinch every time it's misunderstood. Imagine this: a mirror never argues. It doesn't scream when dust lands upon it. It reflects, it absorbs, it remains still. This is the language of the soul. Breathe slowly now. Drop your awareness into your belly. Feel the breath resting there, not rising to meet the chaos, not shrinking from it, just being. This is your true home, the place untouched by noise, by fear, by other people's storms. In this space, you remember, nothing outside you can disturb the calm you do not surrender. Can you sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it? Can you let someone misunderstand you without defending your truth? That's the test of spiritual maturity. Not how well you speak, but how still you remain when the ego wants to fight. Non-reactivity is the art of not giving your peace away so easily. We think we need to respond to everything, but the most powerful response is sometimes no response at all. Not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because when you're rooted in your truth, you don't need the world to agree with you. You don't chase understanding. You become understanding itself. Life will keep throwing stones. People will project their pain. Circumstances will test your limits. But you are not every wave that hits the shore. You are the ocean beneath, vast, unshaken, quiet, deep. In Buddhist mindfulness, we are taught to witness before we speak, to observe before we act, to breathe before we react. This pause, that tiny space between stimulus and response, is where freedom begins. That is where your soul speaks, not through force, but through peace. So ask yourself, who are you when you no longer chase being understood? Who are you when you sit in silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because your spirit has nothing left to prove? Midway through this path, we'll uncover a truth so gentle and yet so life-shifting, it may change the way you see conflict forever. But until then, return to the breath. Let it ground you. You don't have to win every battle. Sometimes your peace is the victory. 3. Detach from the story, return to the stillness. Who would you be without the identity your mind keeps replaying? So much of our suffering comes not from life itself, but from the stories we tell about life. Stories of failure, betrayal, not being enough. They replay like echoes in the mind, shaping how we see the world and even more deeply, how we see ourselves. But peace is not found in the narrative, but in the quiet between thoughts. The stillness that exists before the story begins and after it ends, that is your true nature. We live caught in a loop. A memory becomes a belief becomes an identity. And before we know it, we are no longer living life. We are performing a script written by the past. But just because a thought visits often doesn't mean it's true. Just because the mind repeats a tale of pain doesn't mean your soul agrees. Imagine standing beside a quiet lake at dawn. The mist rises gently from the surface, dancing in the early light. It's beautiful, but it's not the lake. Soon it fades. Beneath it, the water is calm, untouched. Your thoughts are like that mist. They come, they move, they disappear. But you are the still water beneath. You are not the story. You are the awareness watching it unfold. Now breathe. gently. Watch your thoughts as if they were clouds in a wide sky. Let them pass, without chasing, without judging. They have no power except the power you give them. And when you stop attaching to the story, something miraculous happens. Your mind begins to quiet. Not because it is empty, but because it is free. So I ask you, what story is keeping you stuck? Is it the belief that you are broken? That you must prove your worth? That you are not lovable unless you achieve, succeed, please? These stories were not born from your soul. They were born from wounds, from moments, from echoes. And they do not define you. Buddhism teaches the self is not a solid thing. It is not a name, a label, a role. It is a process, fluid, ever-changing. When you return to the breath, when you rest in awareness, the identity begins to dissolve, and in its place comes space. Spaciousness that holds peace, spaciousness that holds truth. Let go of the need to understand everything. Let go of the habit of retelling your pain. What lies beneath your thoughts when all stories dissolve? It is silence, it is presence, it is you, without the weight of yesterday, without the fear of tomorrow. Later in this journey, we'll explore how to break the emotional contracts we never knew we signed. Contracts written by pain, kept alive by memory. But for now, remember, you are not what happened to you. You are the stillness that remains when the story ends. 4. Suffering is a hidden doorway, not a dead end. What if your deepest pain wasn't punishment, but passage? We resist our suffering because we believe it should not be there, that somehow it is a sign of failure, a crack in the path. But the Buddha taught something far more radical. Suffering is not the enemy, it is the teacher, and often it is the doorway, not to destruction, but to awakening. The wound is where the soul begins to see. When we suffer, we tend to shrink. We collapse inward, believing the darkness has swallowed the light. But darkness, too, has wisdom. Picture a seed buried deep beneath the soil. In that moment, it knows only heaviness, silence, pressure. But it is precisely through the pressure that it cracks, and only then does the light begin to enter. A cracked shell is the only way the light reaches the heart of the seed, and so it is with you. The pain you carry is not meaningless. It is not a curse. It is a sacred call inward, to stop running, to stop clinging, to stop pretending you are whole when you've been broken in places that needed to break. It is the crack that calls you home. Close your eyes. Imagine walking through a long, narrow tunnel. At first, it's dark, lonely. You can't see what's ahead. But as you keep walking, slowly, you notice something. Light. Faint at first, then growing stronger. You weren't buried. You were being guided through. Every step, every tear, every collapse was part of the crossing, part of the path. So I ask you gently, what is your suffering trying to awaken within you? Compassion, stillness, the courage to walk away, the humility to begin again. Could it be that what you've called a burden was really a sacred initiation? In Buddhism, we learn that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The mind resists what it doesn't understand, and in that resistance, it suffers. But the moment we allow the pain to speak, it begins to soften. It begins to teach. Your heartbreak, your confusion, your disappointments, none of them are final. They are chapters, not conclusions. You were not meant to stay in the tunnel. You were meant to walk through it, slowly, tenderly, with awareness. Each moment of suffering has something to show you about what truly matters, about who you truly are, about the light that never left you. As we move deeper into this journey, we'll soon explore the silent power of acceptance, the art of not fighting what life hands you, but transforming through it. But until then, sit with this. You are not broken. You are becoming. This pain is not your ending. It is the place your soul begins to rise. 5. The ego seeks freedom. The soul is already free. Why do we keep searching for what's already within us? The mind runs in circles, chasing freedom, chasing worth, chasing peace. It believes that only after we've fixed, proven, achieved, will we be enough. But the soul does not run. It remembers. Freedom isn't found. It's remembered. Like something ancient that never left, only forgotten under the noise of striving. The ego is clever. It says, become more, be better, then you'll be free. And so we climb ladders that lead nowhere. We wear masks that exhaust us. We measure our value in validations. But all the while, the soul waits quietly. It does not fight. It whispers. It knows it was never trapped. Imagine a bird inside a cage. The door is wide open, but the bird keeps staring at the bars. It thinks it must escape. It believes it is still confined. But all it needs to do is turn its head, stretch its wings, and fly. You too may be standing in an open cage, searching for an exit that's already there. Now, breathe deeply. With your next exhale, imagine releasing the version of yourself that you think you must become. The one chasing perfection. The one seeking approval. The one waiting for permission to feel whole. Exhale it. Let it go. In the space that follows, feel what remains. That is your true self. Quiet, worthy, already free. So I ask you, what parts of yourself are you still trying to perfect before you feel worthy of peace? Is it the body, the resume, the past? Who told you that you had to become someone else before you could be loved? Who told you that you weren't already enough? Buddhist wisdom points us back to the present moment, not to improve the self, but to see through it. The self we polish is only a mask. The real you is beneath all effort, silent, unchanging, free from labels. When the ego lets go of its grip, even for a moment, the soul returns. Not because it arrived, but because you finally made space to feel it. This is the turning point. To stop striving to be spiritual and simply remember that you already are. You were born whole. You are not here to become worthy. You are here to remember you always were. Look closely at your life. How much energy is spent proving something? To others? To yourself? What if, just for a day, you stopped trying to become and simply were? Not by force, but by trust. Not by effort, but by stillness. Soon, we'll explore how to walk gently with impermanence and how letting go becomes the most loving act of all. But for now, rest in this simple truth. You don't have to earn your freedom. You only have to remember that the cage was never locked. 6. Let silence answer what the mind cannot. Can silence teach what language cannot hold? We live in a world that worships noise, words, opinions, explanations, constantly filling the air as though silence were a void to be feared. But what if silence isn't empty? What if silence is where the real answers live? When the mind is quiet, the soul begins to speak. Not through words, but through knowing. Not through volume, but through presence. We often ask life to speak to us, to show us the way, to reveal the truth. But we rarely pause long enough to truly listen. The mind is loud. It argues, compares, plans, judges, and in its noise, we miss the wisdom rising from deeper places. Imagine a still pond on a clear night. If the water is disturbed, the moon shatters into fragments. But when the pond is still, the moon is reflected perfectly. So it is with your mind. When it is quiet, what was once unclear becomes whole. Now pause, just one full breath. Inhale gently, exhale slowly. Let go of every need to understand right now. Listen, not with your ears, but with your presence. Notice the space between thoughts. That space is where truth lives. That space is your real teacher. How often do you listen without waiting to respond? How often do you let silence linger without rushing to fill it? In conversation, we often speak to be heard, not to understand. But in silence, ego dissolves, and what remains is connection, real, unfiltered, without defense. In Buddhism, silence is not avoidance, it's awareness. It's a deliberate stepping back so we can see more clearly. It's the mountain that watches the storm pass without needing to chase the wind. When we enter silence, we are not escaping the world. We are entering its essence. The language of the soul is not made of syllables. It is made of stillness. Ask yourself gently, what truth is hiding beneath your words? What insight, what knowing, what calling has been waiting, not for more thinking, but for more stillness? Often, the answers we seek arrive only after the questions fall away. As we continue along this path, you'll learn that silence is not the absence of something. It's the presence of everything your mind tries to outrun. In stillness, your fear softens. In stillness, your truth rises. In stillness, you remember who you are beneath the noise. Later in this journey, we'll touch the sacred practice of letting go, not just of things, but of identities, ideas, and illusions. But before we move forward, let this truth sink in. When you stop trying to hear the world, you finally hear yourself. Silence isn't the absence of wisdom. It is where wisdom waits. 7. Desire isn't the problem. Attachment is. Can you want something deeply without needing it to be happy? Desire arises naturally. It's part of being human, a wish to grow, to love, to create. The Buddha never said desire itself was the problem. It's attachment, the tightening of the fist, the desperate needing, the belief that we cannot be whole without what we want. To hold without clinging is to love without fear. The suffering begins not in wanting, but in refusing to let go of the outcome. Think of a butterfly resting in your palm. It's delicate, beautiful. If you close your fingers, afraid it will leave, you crush it. But if you keep your hand open, you can watch it rest. Maybe it stays, maybe it flies. Either way, you are at peace. Attachment is that closing of the hand, the belief that joy must be gripped or it will vanish. But joy, like the butterfly, only stays where there is freedom. Now pause and picture yourself holding something you deeply desire. A relationship, a dream, recognition. But instead of gripping it, hold it like a feather, lightly, tenderly. Feel the difference. One holds anxiety, the other holds peace. You don't have to throw away your dreams. But can you loosen your grip on how and when they arrive? What are you clinging to that's now clinging back? A past that no longer serves you? A person who cannot stay? A future that keeps slipping through your fingers? Attachment isn't love, it's fear. The fear that without this thing, you are less. The fear that without this outcome, you are incomplete. But in truth, you are already whole, whether the dream comes true or not. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that impermanence touches everything. What comes, goes. What rises, fades. And our suffering is the refusal to dance with this truth. We don't suffer because love leaves. We suffer because we demanded it stay. We don't suffer because success shifts. We suffer because we built our worth upon it. So I ask you gently, can you allow joy without needing to possess it? Can you witness beauty without grasping? Can you love without fear of loss? This is the deeper path, not detachment that avoids, but presence that trusts. When you release attachment, you don't lose passion, you find freedom. You still care, you still try. But you do so from wholeness, not desperation. You learn to flow with life rather than fight it. And that is where peace begins. Soon, we will step into the quiet grace of impermanence and discover how surrender becomes our softest strength. But for now, remember this. What you cling to imprisons you. What you hold with love sets you free. Let your dreams be light enough to fly, and your heart brave enough to let them. 8. Emptiness isn't absence, it's sacred space. What if what feels missing is actually what makes room for awakening? We are taught to fill. Every silence, every pause, every blank space, we rush to cover it, with noise, with movement, with distraction, as if emptiness were something to fear. But the teachings of Buddhism invite us to see it differently. The space between is where the divine quietly waits. Emptiness is not lack, it is potential, sacred, spacious, alive. There is a story often told. A flute, beautifully carved from wood, is only able to sing because of its hollow center. If it were solid, full, it would be silent. The beauty of its music exists not because of what fills it, but because of what does not. And so it is with you. The spaces you call void may be the very places your soul is preparing to sing. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in. Now pause before the next exhale. Feel that moment, the space between two breaths, that stillness, that gap. We often rush through it, afraid to stay, but in that space there is clarity, awareness, a quiet truth beyond words. That is where awakening begins, not in the doing, but in the being. What are you afraid to feel in your emptiness? Is it loneliness, worthlessness, fear of the unknown? Most people fear emptiness because it reflects them back to themselves. Without roles, without distractions, without noise, what is left? And yet, that's where your truest self waits. Not the self built by achievements, but the one born of presence. In Buddhist tradition, emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means freedom from fixed identity, freedom from clinging. It means we are not rigid, we are spacious, not broken, we are open. This is not a flaw in the human design. This is the design. When we make peace with the emptiness within, we become vessels for something greater: wisdom, compassion, peace. Perhaps what hurts is not the emptiness itself, but the belief that it must be filled. Maybe the sadness, the silence, the unanswered parts of your life are not signs of failure, but invitations. Not punishment, but preparation. Space for something new to arise. Space for the sacred to settle in. So I ask you gently, what if your emptiness is not broken? What if it's beautiful? What if, instead of trying to fix the space, you bowed to it, sat with it, listened to what it wants to reveal? There is a sacred intelligence in the gaps of life, in the pauses, the letting go, the moments where nothing seems certain. Soon, we'll enter the quiet art of inner discipline, the calm strength that grows in stillness. But for now, just breathe and let the emptiness soften you. You are not meant to be full all the time. You are meant to be free. Let your emptiness be the sacred space where truth finally finds its voice. 9. Everything you chase, you push away. Why does the more we chase peace, love, or clarity, the more it escapes us? The heart longs. That is natural. But when longing turns into desperate chasing, something subtle shifts within us. The energy of lack creeps in. And in trying so hard to find what we seek, we unknowingly declare to life, "I do not have it." To chase is to confirm its absence. And so, the more we run toward peace, the more we feel unrest. The more we grip for love, the more it slips away. Like trying to catch our own shadow, it disappears the moment we begin to run. There is an old teaching whispered by monks in quiet halls. The most precious things in life cannot be chased. They must be received. Like the sun rising, like a lotus blooming, like trust slowly unfolding between two souls. These things arrive in stillness, in presence, in surrender. Now pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine turning around. You're no longer chasing. You're standing still. And slowly, gently, what you've been running after begins walking toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped pushing it away. What you truly need often seeks you, but it cannot land in a restless hand. So I ask you, gently, what are you desperately chasing that may come only in stillness? Is it someone's love, your own sense of purpose, peace of mind? Could it be that your effort is noble, but your approach is rooted in fear? Chasing comes from the belief that we are separate from the very thing we long for. But Buddhism reminds us there is no separation. The peace you seek is within. The love you long for is already blooming in your heart. The clarity you crave exists beneath the noise. We chase because we're taught that life is earned, that everything good must be wrestled into being. But the deeper truth is this: when you become still, when you return to presence, life has a way of meeting you halfway, like breath meeting breath, like the tide returning to shore. It takes courage to stop chasing, to trust, to say, if this is meant for me, I don't have to beg for it. This is not passivity. It is spiritual confidence. It is surrendering the grip while holding the intention. You still care. You still hope. But you no longer chase it into exhaustion. Soon, we'll explore the delicate practice of walking with change, how to move forward while rooted in peace. But for now, sit with this one truth. What is meant for you is never lost. What belongs to you will not require a chase. Stop running, and you may find that everything you sought has been trying to find you. 10. Let the moment be enough. What if peace isn't found in arrival, but presence? We spend our days chasing the next thing, the next task, the next achievement, the next version of ourselves. We tell ourselves that once we get there, then we'll feel peace. Then we'll rest. Then we'll be enough. But the truth is, that finish line always moves. And so we run and forget the ground beneath our feet. This moment, exactly as it is, holds no lack. A candle doesn't wait for the room to be dark to shine. It simply shines where it is, as it is. It doesn't calculate the worth of its glow. It doesn't wait to be seen. It is enough simply by being what it is. What if you lived like that? Not seeking the perfect stage to show up fully, but realizing that presence, here, now, is the stage itself. Take a deep breath. Feel your body exactly where it is. Let your shoulders drop. Feel your breath. No need to deepen it or slow it down. Just as it is. Let yourself land fully in this moment, not to fix it, not to improve it, but to experience the miracle that you are alive, now. Nothing missing, nothing waiting. Are you postponing peace for a perfect future? Are you holding your joy hostage until things fall into place? Until you're healed, successful, seen, or understood? The mind is clever. It will always find a reason why now isn't quite enough. But the soul knows. The soul lives in the present. It doesn't ask for more. It only asks you to notice what's already here. Buddhist wisdom teaches that clinging to the future is one of the greatest sources of suffering, because in that grasping, we reject what is. We miss the texture of the wind, the warmth of a smile, the softness of breath. And what's worse, we teach ourselves that peace is somewhere else, always out of reach. But here's the quiet truth. What you're searching for is already here. Not in the next chapter, not in a future version of yourself, but in the stillness of this very moment. If you stop waiting, if you stop postponing your joy, you might realize that you've been standing in peace this whole time. You just didn't recognize it without a label. So ask yourself gently, what would change if now was already enough? What if the breath you're taking right now is sacred? What if you didn't need to become anything more to deserve rest or joy or love? Soon, we'll open into the truth of impermanence, how learning to let go is the key to living fully. But for now, pause. Come back to this moment. Let it be simple. Let it be whole. You don't have to wait for a perfect life to live a peaceful one. Let this moment be enough. And it will be. 11. The mind fears what the soul has already survived. What if your anxiety is just the mind rehearsing what your soul already knows how to overcome? We forget how many storms we've walked through, how many nights we feared we wouldn't survive. Yet here we are, still breathing, still rising. The mind clings to fear because it thinks that fear will protect us. But the soul is timeless. It remembers not the wound, but the strength that rose from it. Fear remembers. The soul already forgave. Imagine standing in the middle of a thunderstorm. The sky rumbles, winds howl, and lightning dances in the dark. That is the mind in fear, loud, panicked, full of chaos. But beneath the storm, the mountain remains unmoved, solid, still. That mountain is your soul. No matter how fierce the storm, the soul watches in silence, knowing the sky will clear, knowing that nothing real can be destroyed. Close your eyes, if only in your heart. Take a breath and place your attention on the center of your chest, your heart space. Imagine your breath entering gently, like light pouring into a quiet room. Feel that space expand, wider than fear, deeper than thought. In that space, there is no panic, only presence, only truth. Ask yourself gently, what do you fear that has already happened and passed? How many times have you rehearsed pain that never arrived, or revisited wounds that no longer exist? The mind fears the echo, but the soul has already walked through the fire and come out brighter. Who would you be if you no longer carried the memory of fear as proof of your limits? Buddhism teaches that fear is a construction, a habit of the mind clinging to the illusion of control. But the soul doesn't need control. It knows that everything it needs is already within. You've survived more than you give yourself credit for. You've healed in ways you didn't even notice. Every scar is a doorway, not a prison. Every shadow, a teacher. The practice is not to silence the mind by force, but to witness it with compassion. Let the fearful thought arise, and instead of reacting, simply bow to it. Say, I see you, but I no longer belong to you. Let it pass, like a bird flying through an open sky. The fear will leave, and your stillness will remain. Fear shrinks us, but the soul remembers its vastness. It doesn't run, it opens, it forgives. It walks slowly through what the mind screams about, and smiles. Because it knows the only thing we ever lose in fear is the illusion of who we are not. So tonight, sit with your fears as an old friend. Not to fight, not to fix, but to listen. And in listening, watch how fear softens. Watch how the thunder fades. You are not the storm, you are not the sound, you are the mountain. And you always have been. 12. When you let go, you return to who you were before the world touched you. What if letting go isn't losing yourself, but finally finding the part of you the world made you forget? We spend our lives collecting names, roles, wounds, and expectations. Bit by bit, we build an identity. But it's not truly us. It's the version shaped by others. The world hands you a mirror smudged with fingerprints and says, "This is who you are." But the soul remembers something quieter, older. Before the world spoke, you were already whole. The soul remembers who you were before the noise. Like dust on a mirror, all that we've picked up, the fears, the pressure, the labels, simply hide the original light. And when we begin to let go, we are not becoming less, we are becoming clear. We are returning to the reflection beneath it all. A child once played under the open sky without wondering if they were enough. That child still lives in you. And the path is not to add more, but to release what never belonged. Letting go is not passive. It is not weakness. It is the most courageous act of all, to unclench your grip on the story and trust that what's underneath is already worthy. Imagine stepping out of your thoughts and into your breath. Feel yourself peel away the voices that told you who to be. Beneath all the noise, there is only presence, only breath. Bare, pure, untouched. Take a deep breath. With every exhale, release one label the world gave you. Too much. Let it go. Not enough. Let it go. You should be this. Let it go. Each one floats away like petals on the wind, and what remains is something timeless, your original self. Ask gently, what did the world convince you to become? Did it teach you to shrink your light, to chase instead of rest, to prove your worth instead of feel it? And now ask, are you willing to return to your original peaceful self? Not someday, but now. Not when you're better, but as you already are. Buddhism doesn't ask you to become something new. It invites you to remember what you've always been. The awareness beneath the thoughts, the stillness beneath the storm. You are not the noise, you are the space it moves through. When you let go, you are not falling apart, you are falling inward. So sit in the quiet of your breath and feel what remains when everything else fades. You will not find a stranger there. You will find someone you've always known, someone soft and strong and free. Letting go is not an end, it is a return. And you are not late. You are right on time to remember yourself again. Quick summary of the lessons. The illusion of control is the root of your suffering. When you try to control life, you only tighten your own chains. Control breeds tension, fear, and resistance. Buddhist wisdom teaches that peace begins the moment you stop fighting what is. True freedom comes when you surrender to the flow of life, not force it. Non-reactivity is the language of the soul. The need to respond, explain, or prove only feeds the ego. Real strength lies in the ability to remain inwardly still amidst emotional storms. Detachment from drama brings clarity. When you stop reacting, you begin rising. Detach from the story, return to the stillness. Most suffering is recycled through mental stories. These narratives keep you trapped in identity, ego, and past wounds. But underneath the noise lies peace. You are not your story. You are the awareness that witnesses it. Suffering is a hidden doorway, not a dead end. Pain isn't punishment, it's a message. It points to what needs to be released, healed, or understood. Suffering awakens wisdom if you're willing to feel it fully. Transcendence is found through, not around, the pain. The ego seeks freedom. The soul is already free. The ego always wants more. More praise, more identity, more control. But the soul knows freedom doesn't come from adding, it comes from unburdening. The moment you stop trying to be someone, you remember who you truly are. Let silence answer. What the mind cannot. Not everything needs to be solved, spoken, or analyzed. Silence holds a higher intelligence than thought. When the mind quiets, the soul becomes audible. Peace lives in the spaces we usually rush past. Desire isn't the problem, attachment is. You can want something deeply and still remain free from it. Suffering begins when desire turns into obsession. Love and ambition can coexist with inner peace if you're willing to hold them lightly. Emptiness isn't absence, it's sacred space. We often fear emptiness, but it's the beginning of clarity. Letting go creates space for new awareness to emerge. When you stop filling every silence with noise, you start to hear your true self. Everything you chase, you push away. Desperate pursuit signals lack. The more you chase, the more you affirm its absence. Buddhist wisdom invites us to invite rather than force. What's meant for you flows when you stop grasping. Let the moment be enough. Peace isn't found in the next achievement, destination, or relationship. It lives in the now, exactly as it is. When you finally accept the present as complete, you stop postponing your happiness. The mind fears what the soul has already survived. Your mind replays fear like a loop, but your soul has endured storms the mind forgot. You are stronger than your thoughts. The past may have shaped you, but it no longer defines you. When you let go, you return to who you were before the world touched you. Underneath the layers of ego, fear, and societal conditioning is your original self, peaceful, whole, and wise. Letting go is not losing who you are. It's returning to who you were before the world taught you who to be. There's a quiet revolution happening inside you. One not born of noise, ambition, or praise, but of deep stillness. The more you release, the lighter you become. The more you surrender, the clearer your soul begins to speak. What once felt like loss now feels like liberation. What once felt like control now feels like a cage you've outgrown. All the principles you've heard today are not rules, they are reminders. Reminders of the freedom that was always within you. Your soul doesn't need fixing, it needs remembering. And that remembering begins not when you figure life out, but when you sit still long enough to hear what life has been whispering all along. As Zen wisdom teaches, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a single drop. So breathe deeply, trust your journey, and let go of what you never needed. If this spoke to you, remind yourself and others, like and share this video. Share your reflections in the comments, and subscribe to Deep Wisdom for more soul-awakening Buddhist insights to live a truly peaceful life. What's the one thing you now feel ready to release, so your soul can finally rest?